Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transportation Exchange podcast presented by Rush Truck Centers of Canada. I'm your host, Jason Cuddy, and we welcome back this time Christoph Horn, who is the Fleet Account Executive at Cummins. Christoph, welcome back.
Well, thanks a lot, Jason. Really happy to be here. And I know we've tried to get together a few times over the last little while, and sorry it took so long, but I think the timing's perfect, right? Like, we got new products launching next year, even more launching in 2027, and some big news with regards to the our 15-liter product as well. Not so much changing with the product, but some changes with regards to timing, which I'd love to get out to yourself and to your listeners.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and behind the scenes, there's been a lot of movement in the industry. But I think the main focus really here is the concrete stuff, which is different products you guys are launching specifically for 27. So we've got a little bit of a window first, but it's nice to kind of understand what's coming so customers can kind of prep and see what the big changes are. And I guess maybe we'll start on the medium duty side. Let's start with, I guess we'll go from smallest to biggest. Let's talk about the B6.7, which everyone knows and loves. What is the changes?
Yeah, so starting with the B makes a lot of sense, not just because it's the smallest, but because that's the one that's going to not so much change next, but there's a new entrant entering the market on the B side. So it's a product that we announced last March at the Work Truck Show. It goes into production January of next year, is the Octane. So it's the simplicity of gasoline with the reliability, durability, and performance of diesel.
Nice.
We can't just launch a gasoline engine, have to make it diesel-like, which it certainly is. So it's a 6.7 liter inline six turbocharged gasoline engine. Simple after treatment that you'd expect with a gasoline engine. So there's no DOC, DPF, or SCR. And, from a performance standpoint, very much like diesel, as I mentioned. So ratings up to 300 horsepower, 600 foot-pounds of torque. And when you compare that rating and that torque to a traditional V8 gasoline engine, you notice it occurs at lower engine speeds, much more diesel-like feel to the product. Also, with the technology and the architecture of the engine, we're going to see about a 10% improvement in fuel economy versus a traditional V8 gasoline engine as well. So, from an application standpoint, we really see it going into where you may have seen some diesel or the B operating in the past, right? And also it might open some new avenues as well, but P&D applications, school bus applications, applications where there's a lot of high idle, vocational applications, it'll be a really nice fit there.
Yeah, and especially a lot of high idle. We have a lot of customers who do that where they don't necessarily need the power per se, but the idling cost, especially with the diesel stuff, becomes an issue. So having similar power is great.
Yes.
But yeah, it opens up a different market, obviously. But the fuel economy savings versus a standard V8 that you would normally have in a vehicle that size is incredibly significant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and a lot of customers that are operating in those applications are quite excited for the Octane to roll off the line, and they can start utilizing and getting used to those benefits.
That'll be neat. And so obviously with that coming in, it kind of, for lack of better words, kind of displaces the current diesel model. Where is the diesel model headed as we move into 27?
Yes, yeah. So there's still going to be a diesel B engine. The change will happen in 2027.
Okay.
We're going to sunset the 6.7 liter and go to a new block with new components, a 7.2 liter B6.7 engine. And there's really three main reasons for switching from the 6.7 to the 7.2. The first is increases with regards to fuel efficiency.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're dropping rated engine speed and peak engine speed, but in order to keep the rating similar to what we have today and actually increase the torque and horsepower available, we needed to increase the size of the engine, increase the displacement.
Gotcha.
So the number one is fuel efficiency, greenhouse gas related. Number two is NOx emissions, right? A lot of the products today, not even just speaking about Cummins, but there is some significant changes occurring, and the products need to be reflective in those changes. So increasing the size of the displacement reduces peak engine temperatures, which reduces NOx emissions.
Gotcha.
The other emission-related component that not a lot of people know about, but there's robustness requirements. And the 7.2 liter, going from a 7.2 to a 6, from a 6.7 to a 7.2, sorry, increases the robustness of the product.
Gotcha.
And then lastly, and this is probably not good etiquette on a podcast, but I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. The 9 liter is going away.
Right.
So we needed the B to be a little more robust and have higher ratings to accommodate for the ratings that we're going to lose on the low end of the 9 liter. There will be a product that we're going to get into that replaces the 9, but we do need that B to be a little bit more capable and slide into some of those 9 liter ratings that will no longer be. So the 7.2 will go all the way up to 360 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, whereas the 9, it was all the way down to 260 to 860.
Gotcha.
So that's so much, it moves up into those 9 liter ratings, those low 9 liter ratings quite nicely.
That'll be interesting because there are some customers that kind of straddle that line, right? Traditionally we'd have a single axle medium duty truck would have the B6.7, a tandem by default. You usually got the L9 just because of the perceived weight that's going to be on it. But now there's that potential where that tandem customer can run with a 7.2.
Yes.
Don't need all that displacement. Obviously, there'll be some fuel savings versus a 9 liter from the traditional way.
Yep.
So that could be pretty exciting for different customers where they kind of, for lack of words, almost step down in displacement size, but not really lose any of the performance and power.
That's right, and you're going to gain some weights, or you're going to benefit from the weight savings as well.
That's a good point.
Yes. Yeah.
So then with, as you mentioned, the L9, so obviously that is transitioning as well for 27. What can we expect?
Yeah, so the L9, it's twofold. So we're going to straddle medium duty and heavy duty here. Yeah. The new product is called the X10, and it will replace both the L9 and the X12 come 2027.
Gotcha.
Right, so there's going to be 2 hardware sets for the X10. There's going to be the Productivity Series hardware set, and there's going to be the Performance Series hardware set.
Gotcha.
So the Productivity Series is more or less the L9 ratings from the past, and then the Performance ratings are the X12 ratings from the past.
Gotcha.
And then where do we see the product fitting in? We know it. We call it the workhorse, and it's going to take on that mantra, right? The same as the L9. So heavy vocational focus, some P&D work, right? But like vocational, transit bus, refuse truck, vac truck. But then also with the performance ratings are going to go up to 450, 1650. So also a capable engine in a tractor application.
Yeah.
Especially if we're thinking about weight sensitive day cab work, it'll fit quite nicely in there as well.
That's pretty impressive, yeah. Because if you're kind of merging the 2 into 1, you got to kind of cover all lines. But that's good to know because that's always people are concerned. Okay, again, the displacement's coming down, so I'm losing power. But you're right up there almost with where that size and the 12 liters play in.
Yeah, and then the product it's already in production today globally.
Okay.
So for those who aren't aware, all of our engines for North America are made in North America. So the X10 will be made just like the L9 is today in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Gotcha.
We North Americanize it, and it's currently in test. And then once we go to full production, it'll be made in Rocky Mount.
Nice. And then I guess the last one to talk about is kind of the bread and butter of everyone goes to, it defaults to with you guys, which is the X15.
Yeah.
Nomenclature is staying, but there's still, again, for 27 are some changes.
Yeah, and before we talk about the product itself,
sure.
I think we should talk about the timing, and I alluded to it off the top. The plan was, and I think anyone who's in the heavy-duty industry likely aware, certainly you're aware if you have someone from Cummins that you work with. The plan was to launch that product and bring the benefits of that product to market in 2026. We recently made some changes and decided rather than launching it in 2026, we would launch in 2027 along with the other products that we're bringing to market at that time. And the reason for that, is twofold for the most part. One is, economic. The pressures continue to be applied with regards to economic pressures, and you just had James in. I'm sure you talked about that.
Yes.
He can continue to have those conversations with you. He's perfect for that. But yeah, those are really disrupting the buying cycle with regards to our customers right now. And the second is from a regulatory standpoint. 2027 is still happening. We're aware of that. But
Yep.
what happened and what customers may not be aware is that a month ago, 6 weeks ago, Donald Trump signed the CRA, the Congressional Review Act. And what that did is it revoked CARB mandates,
Okay.
specifically Omnibus, which was a low NOx rule for between now and 2027 that CARB had implemented at 50 milligrams.
Right.
It also revoked Advanced Clean Truck, which was the mandate that stated that OEMs and dealers had to sell a certain percentage of zero emission vehicles before they could unlock internal combustion diesel sales.
Right.
And then thirdly, this wasn't part of the CRA, but CARB didn't pursue Advanced Clean Fleet, which
Okay.
was the mandate that they were considering bringing about to ensure that fleets were purchasing zero emission vehicles if they wanted to operate and travel into California.
Right.
So that really, that decision and that change brought about the fact that, originally we were going to be able to sell 200 milligram trucks in 46 states.
Right.
With that change, we're able to sell 200 milligram or current production, I should say, engines in 49 states.
Gotcha.
Every state other than California. So we really saw a decrease in the need or the demand for the product. So the decision was made, and I'll reiterate it, to continue operating the current product that we know today, that all the way through to the end of 2026, and then switch over to the 2027 X15 in 2027.
Gotcha. And yeah, and those 2027 EPA guidelines are still in place, despite everything else that has changed.
Yeah.
And, stuff still keeps moving. That's the unknown, but clearly the 27, every OEM is so invested that, that's not going away. But then that's where I guess the X15, the first big changeover comes into play.
Yes. And I should just mention as well, for fleets that we're looking forward to we called it the pull ahead provision. We are still making a limited production of the product in Q4 of 2026. So
Okay.
that's the 27 product will go into limited production, but during that time we'll still be making the 200 milligram product as well. So there is going to be a little bit available, but by and large, 2026 will be all 200 milligram production. And then, as you mentioned, 2027. The whole product range, the diesel product range, then flips over to the products that we were just discussing.
Gotcha. And then tied to that, you guys have made some changes to that block as well, and kind of how it interacts with not just diesel, obviously.
Yes.
As you go forward, maybe explain a little bit of what
Sure.
that is.
Yeah, sure. So that's we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, true.
So the specifically the X15, it's been in global production for a number of years. I believe we've got 58,000 of them globally produced and 7.3 billion miles on them. But we first brought that product to North America and launched the natural gas engine in 2024. So
Right.
this will be the diesel variant, and it will replace the current diesel product, as mentioned, in 27, and it is a new block design versus what we had before. So the current product is a legacy product that's essentially carried on since 98 when we launched the Signature 600. So yeah, it's coming up for a refresh. And the new block is lighter, significantly lighter than the other product. Just base engine alone, reduction of parasitic losses. We're anticipating to see about a 4% fuel economy improvement,
Nice.
base engine alone. And then also on top of that, with our, we bought Meritor JV with Eaton, so we've got driveline as well that we're making additional fuel efficiency improvements to. We're probably going to see about 7% driveline related improvement for 27. So very significant improvements, and then everything that Navistar and our OEM partners do with regards to aerodynamic would just be over and above. So
Good point. Yep.
some really significant savings that we're going to see there with regards to fuel economy improvements on the X15.
Which is nice, because I know everyone's always challenged with, especially when you get to different EPA bumps, into technology, and obviously there's cost involved, and it is what it is. But it's nice to see, to some aspect, although yes, there is a bit of a cost increase as we go into these new technologies, what it keeps doing, though, is creating an offset of a cost reduction in fuel savings. Then, you're not talking small numbers. Are you saying, potentially 5 to 7 by having an all-in driveline, right, with your engine paired with the Endurant and with the Meritor axles. And then with the OEM has, then you take some weight out of the vehicle, you put on aero, and you match that up with trailer packages. Like you can see significant fuel savings as you roll into 27. So despite the uptick in capital costs of the vehicle, over the long term, it should be very beneficial to most fleets.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I mentioned, we're delaying some of the benefits, unfortunately, of the next generation product. But from an economic standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, it's probably the right decision.
Yep.
And then we'll eventually get there when 2027 hits.
Yeah, and I think part of by keeping it static up until 27, I know to your point, we'd have Menzies in before talking about what the year looked like, and everyone, before the slowdown happened, everyone was predicting, this year into mid-beginning of next year was your big pre-buy.
Yeah.
And no one's seen that yet. But, this may also will help with this, because obviously if you're not doing kind of that mid-cycle bump halfway through next year, obviously the cost stays fairly static.
Yes.
Up until 27. So that may help encourage the pre-buy to some extent as well, potentially.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on what the freight market does, but from a Cummins perspective, fleets certainly have longer if they wish to purchase the current product before going to the next generation, or 2027, I should say, X15. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
There's definitely lots to look forward to, but that's why we want to have you on, just kind of get an overview of what's coming down the pipe, right? So people can start planning. You're at, as we're talking now, it's the middle of the summer, so fleets start putting together their budgets and their numbers for 26, right? So this is good, at least so they know what the market looks like for 26, and then obviously what's coming down for 27, and they can plan accordingly of how much they want to get in now before later, and then maybe hold off and take advantage of something like the X10 or the B7.2, and that may help take some fuel costs out. This gives them a better way to kind of potentially manage your fleet over the next couple of years, given the technology that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think this wasn't an easy decision from Cummins. We'd been looking at doing that for that other strategy for a little while.
Correct.
But it was about the last possible moment that we could make the switch, even from a supply perspective, right? Because we do need to plan ahead from that regards, and then it's going to be the same until 27.
There you go. So we got some stability in the market for now.
We do, yes.
Which is great. Hey, well, look, I appreciate you coming on and sharing this information. It's always good to have you guys come in and kind of give us a temperature check of the industry, what's happening technology-wise, and you guys have a lot going on, especially coming for 27. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you having me on. Like I said at the start, the timing is perfect, and really appreciate everything you do with this podcast for the industry as well. It's very well received.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you. And that does conclude today's episode. To catch past episodes, check out transportationexchangepodcast.ca. Until next time, thanks for watching.